You're either going to do it in a biofoam, or you're going to do it in plaster strips. And when you do plaster strips, which we're going to do right now, it's preferable to use warm water because it gets solid faster.
Okay.
There we go. And also, little details make a big difference. You put a little piece of paper in there, and you'll see why, because it gathers up some of the plaster dust. So it's easier for you or your nurse to clean up after in the bowl. It captures a lot. So warm water in the bowl, and you tell the patient to roll their pants legs up. Go ahead, take a seat, and some of the stuff I tell you will be stuff you never heard. So actually going from the side, the chair can break. Okay, go sit all the way down. And when you take a mold of a patient's foot, typically you've done a history and physical before and determined that they need orthotics. We're assuming that that's already been done. And we also do range of motion, which you're going to be learning about in session 1. And you're going to be learning about what to do with all the different measurements that you take. Again, session 1. But after we've done your history and your physical, we've determined that we're going to need, as part of your therapy, to do orthotics. That's when we start actually taking molds of your feet, and we decide to do what to do with your molds. We actually, do you have any symptoms, you personally?
So for me, it's lots of heel pain.
You can see over here is the mold. You do get heel pain, okay.
Yeah.
So patient with heel pain. Anything else?
Heel pain on my right foot, where there's sort of a talus forming. I also feel a little bit of tenderness there. And a little bit of
Heel pain.
joint pain on the right foot as well. For the
Where?
For the hallux.
Everything's on the right.
Yeah.
Right hallux. How old are you?
24.
4 male. This is my history and physical sheet I showed you last time.
Mm-hmm.
So where in the hallux do you get the pain?
I think the MPJ, right?
So the hallux, first MPJ.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the plaster material that we use. And you're going to see that I'm very careful to try to stay as neat and clean as possible. And this is also a sheet that you should have. This has all the different stages from history and physical up until getting the orthotics in your patient's foot. And this is what the plaster strips look like. We use 2 strips for each foot. Be very careful, take it off so don't get it all over the room. We take 2 strips for one foot, 2 strips for the other, and then we put this one back carefully. And we also apply this material to your foot ahead of time. It's not required, but it's a nice separating media. When I go to take the cast off, it comes off much easier. And you'll also see when we do casting without this material, the material sticks to your foot more. It's a little more difficult.
What does that say on the...
It's called Workman's Friend.
Workman's Friend.
But it's just the separating thing that workman people put on their hands so it's easier to clean their hands off, like plumbers, etc., etc. So when I'm casting your foot, I want your foot to be in a position that when I put your subtalar in neutral and load your metatarsal joint, that the long axis of your foot is perpendicular to the floor. So we just adjust your foot and knee to that, and it looks like you have pretty high malleolar torsion, so I have to really internally rotate your leg. I can see your knee is internal. But we want to make the casting as minimally stressful on me as possible because I don't want to have my arm going into spasm. That's okay. We can see that. So this is a good position for you. And notice the height is right around my shoulder height, so I'm not way up here or way down there. So we apply this kind of a silicone kind of thing. And also you'll see when we pour plaster into the cast, the wet plaster, when it hardens, will come off much easier as well. And when you, the patient, go to good morning. When you, the patient, go to wash your feet off after I cast you, it's even helpful for that. So we're going to take, there's two different ways to cast your foot with this plaster. There's a two-piece method, two separate pieces, and then one-piece method. I'll do both, one on each of your feet. The two-piece method is, the first piece is going to go on the back here, and we wet the plaster, just pass it through, and then those two little pieces of paper there to catch the debris, makes it easier for your cleanup person to clean up. Then we take your plaster, fold it over because we want to have a nice strong edge, and then we're going to take that, and it goes onto your heel, up to your forefoot, and you rotate this first piece onto your skin, and the other one over it. Now once that's on there, we take the other piece and we see that we don't need all that, so I'm going to take a little away. That's going to go on the bottom to strengthen the bottom of the cast. So the same thing here. And then we go lateral, rub it into the first part. Then medial. And then you ask the patient to hold your foot up at the ankle. And we just drape this onto the foot. So it's all covered all the way around. And then with this extra piece right here, we're going to put it on there because that'll make it stronger when we pour plaster in it, so that it will be strong when it doesn't collapse. Now, relax your foot, and then my thumb is in the sulcus of your foot, of your toes, and my thumb is parallel to your sulcus. My index finger is kind of clamping your fourth and fifth proximal phalanges, and then I can rotate your subtalar joint to find neutral position, talar-navicular congruity. Then we dorsiflex the foot to resistance. No, I do. You relax. That's the most mistakes made by the patient is they will be, you're doing fine. They're moving their foot, which changes the shape. And also I can see that your hallux, this is a more biomechanical discussion, is actually downward flexed. And it could be, I haven't done your measurements yet, it could be that you have a forefoot varus and the medial side of your foot doesn't bear weight and your hallux is having to come down to bear weight that your big toe joint isn't. I don't know yet. We're going to do some measurements and we're going to do some footprints of your foot walking.
Sounds good.
And you call your nurse and you say, Nubia, when I'm done, we need his feet cleaned off.
Okay.
And then footprints, please.
All right, I'm going to the restroom real quick.
Okay.
So could that be due to some sort of cavus foot type?
You might have a cavus foot, but what I just described is not relevant to cavus feet.
Okay.
It's just, mostly it's a forefoot varus.
Okay.
I haven't even measured you. I'm assuming from this position. Normally we've done our measurements before all this, but for time purposes, I got to get your feet cast. One of the biggest errors in casting people's feet is not rubbing it in properly, rubbing it in too much, because right now the plaster is starting to harden.
Okay.
And there's a point at which I can change the shape of that plaster. I don't want to do that. And I'm also feeling it with my nails and stuff, and I'm feeling it starting to harden. And another error made by the caster is to either let go too fast and it collapses and you supinate the mid-tarsal joint oblique axis, or go to remove the plaster too soon and you'll deform the the cast.
Okay.
You have to wait until this cast becomes solid, and then we'll use our removal techniques, which I'll be showing you in a couple minutes. Do you feel it's starting to harden? Can you tell?
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing is, I won't remove this until I've done this foot, because the longer you leave it on here, the more solid it gets, and also the less debris it leaves on the patient's foot, so less for them to have to
Clean off.
clean off. Yeah, sometimes it comes off almost everything. There are doctors who very mistakenly will put the plaster on and walk out of the room, and then the foot hangs plantar flexed and metatarsal oblique axis supinated. Very inappropriate. You're also going to learn that a couple of the criteria that we look at in a negative cast is that the hallux and the fifth toe should be parallel to the floor.
Okay.
Yours is actually slightly plantar flexed, so I have to dorsiflex it slightly to get that. As I see in your right foot, I don't think you have the same thing. I think your 2 feet are have some differences.
I might have a slight limb length. I'm not sure because I remember Jake and Brandon did their study and I did have one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was one of them.
Okay, well, don't tell me what they found.
Okay.
I will look, and you're going to learn in session 1 or 2 with me that there's really just 2. We do a lot of measurements, biomechanical, and this is now hard enough to let sit, so let that go. You're going to find out that there are a lot of measurements we take, and these are a lot of them. And really, there's only 2 measurements that really go into the making of the orthotic directly to your laboratory prescription.
Cool.
And those 2 measurements are limb length difference and forefoot to rear foot, that you can have.
Thank you.
Forefoot to rear foot meaning forefoot varus, forefoot valgus. So now this one goes, this one you hold up, relax your foot, looking for subtalar neutral, load it, perpendicular. You actually do have that downward flexion. Actually, you are symmetrical. Okay, good. So hold your foot like that. The other technique of taking a cast, we take 2 pieces together, and then we see where the plaster overlaps, go a little past that, tear off the extra. You don't really have to tear off the extra. I like to put it on the bottom so the cast is strengthened on the bottom. Again, just try to squeeze this onto your papers. You don't have to, but it just makes cleanup easier. And then after we get this doubled over piece, we fold over the top. Apply it. Lateral, fully up against your skin. Then medial, again. And we rub it into the sulcus. Don't leave any holes. And then you take an extra piece of plaster. Now it's all contacting your skin. Good. Now if you could turn like that in that direction with your tush, everything. Just a tiny bit. Good. Not that much. Not that much. Good. Okay. Now relax your foot. Turn off the camera for 1 second. So I'm talking about the plantar flexion of the hallux in order to make up for forefoot varus, which I think you have. We haven't measured yet. And because the foot is a tripod, in order to function as ideal as possible. And the 3 parts of the tripod are 1, 2, 3. If this is absent, this has to come in and be your medial supporter.
Okay.
See on your footprint if that's the case. What was your question?
So, does that lead to increased risk for things like turf toe or
Sure.
anything else?
Sure. Yeah. Relax your ankle. You can see the patient's tendons pulling, and you know, like here, if you're relaxed now, but the tendons, EHL, EDL, anterior tibial were all very prominent. So it's showing me that your foot wasn't completely relaxed. Okay, now we're just waiting for this to harden. After this is done, we're going to take this down into our laboratory and pour plaster into it. It takes 30 to 60 minutes for that plaster to harden.
Okay.
And we're going to strip this away, and then you're going to shadow me today, I guess. And then after that, we're going to take those casts and make them into usable casts for the making of orthotics. And what I just described, the making of the positive cast into a usable cast for making orthotics, is session 2. Our biomechanics class has 4 sessions.
Okay.
First session is this and measurements. Second class is working with the positive cast and then making orthotics from that. So students after session 2 have orthotics that are ready to be broken in.
Mm-hmm.
Session 3, we add stabilizers to the heels called rear foot post, and also lifts if there's a short side. And also teach about different kind of cushions and pads and accommodative adjustments to orthotics. That's session 3. Also, we discuss how orthotics are to be dispensed in session 3. Instructions for your patients as well. And then session 4, which I'm doing next week with the current class, we go through case histories, questions and answers, gait cycle, different kind of biomechanical, interesting discussions.
Sounds
So
good.
this is solid enough to let it relax. Now when you take it off, you can take it off properly, but if you can actually mess it up. What you do first is you just gently pull away on the anterior portion, the middle portion of the foot. And then you separate it in the toes. Then you're going to feel this. The audience is not going to see this. When I do this, you'll feel the skin separating from the plaster, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And like this, you feel your toes going away?
Yep.
Because you want to have as much separation as possible so that it doesn't get deformed. And you pull the Achilles up. We call that breaking the heel. You should feel it coming around your heel. Now, once it gets to that point, you take your hands and very carefully jiggle it away from your foot. Pull down and then forward. And then that's ready to pour plaster. Just do it. And with these extra pieces, I'm going to raise the front edge a little bit so she can pour it as deep as possible. For this one, take it apart, pull it away from the toes. You can also see there's a little hole in the front, so we're going to fill that. A little hole right here. Fill that up. And we can build it up in the front a little bit as well. And also, what's your first name?
Parth?
So P. We also always write it on the inside, because if the cast get poured and stripped and you didn't remember who it was, you want to have some indicator, because that's going to transfer onto the
In this case, I know it's PP.
Yeah.
Walk just
Yeah,
normal?
just a regular full print. Oh, you're not, it's not,
Oh, there's no ink?
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh, cool.
water. And when you're doing one cast, this used to have measurements, but it's a little bit over, maybe like 1500 of whatever this is. Sorry, can't give you all that info. It's been too long, I don't remember. Then,
And this is the plaster, correct?
this is the plaster. Mix it in there. Slowly. And while that's setting a little bit, this is water with soap.
Okay.
We make sure to get the this plaster that's already set wet and kind of like moistens inside so that the plaster doesn't stick, or else when we try to peel it off,
It'll just stay on.
yeah, it'll be really difficult. And this is water and soap.
Cool. So 1500, water and soap.
Yes. Now you want this to be, you don't want it to be too watery, because if it's too watery, it won't set correctly. But you don't want it to be too hard either, because
Then it's like cement.
he doesn't like it to be too hard.
And so, how much of the powder did you put in? The
On this one, whatever this is,
600?
No, I kind of did it up to here, so I'm gonna say another 1500.
Cool. So I'm guessing it's milliliters.
You're the doctor. I hate math. I'm adding a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
because I want it to look kind of like batter,
Okay.
to have that consistency. So kind of like that.
Cool.
So when I bring it to the side, I want there to be that
Little leftovers.
residue type of thing. Yeah.
Cool.
And the longer you let it sit, the thicker it'll get because it's setting. So I don't want any lumps in there. There you do. Come here. You want some really high, so you pour.
Awesome.
Just kind of move it to try to get the bubbles out. Do some little. That's basically it.
Awesome. So like recap, it's going to be 1500 each. Kind of like a 1-to-1. Then we mix it up and we pour it. And then get the bubbles out, correct?
Yeah. And
Awesome.
then just remember the consistency that you're looking for.
Cookie dough? Or no?
No,
What's the word?
batter.
Batter, that's what it was. Pancake batter.
And that is how you do it. All right, for tomorrow.
When we strip this away, this will be. Oh, are you running? Okay. Ideally, you want to get down here after around 45 minutes, because you learn the properties of your different materials. And when this hard plaster hardens, it makes an exothermic reaction and sweats between the plaster sheets and the hard plaster. But because I put that separating media on your foot, this is coming off easy. But if you don't put separating media, then taking this apart, it's very stuck. Did the name come through here?
A little bit. The
Not
P came in.
much, not enough. I usually use a different kind of a pencil that transfers, indelible. When we do this at school, we forget to put separating media. You need muscles to get this stuff off. It really sticks. So we're done down here. This is the indelible pencil we use. P-E-R-T-H?
P-A-R-T-H.
P-A-R-T-H. Not as much. So it kind of resembles the footprint.
It's pretty cool.
So I gotta go. Hey guys, we need a refill on plaster here. We need a refill on plaster here. So when we do the plaster, you can either immerse it into a tub of water or add water above the level of the plaster and let that go for about 4 or 5 minutes. And that'll be usable in about 4 or 5 minutes. In the interim, I'm going to explain to you our next step. I'll be right back. Five parts to what we do to this to get it ready for orthotics. One is the medial and lateral platform, which is 1 and 2. Some labs make it 1 all the way across. Makes up your anterior platform, corrects for forefoot varus or valgus, and gives you a stable front. Medial expansion allows for wearability so that the plastic doesn't dig into your foot. Lateral expansion and heel expansion is also like 1, allows for wearability at the heel. So I'll keep this out of our way. Let's see how. Now also, I take my file. When I file away, see how the hallux is down right there?
Mm-hmm.
I want that taken away because that will interfere with my anterior platform. You want the first fifth, wow, touching at the same time. And when I actually put the anterior platform and tilt it, it probably will bring it right back to where it was before I file away the hallux. So that's good. And this one here is just slightly affected by that. See the difference?
Yep.
Barely off the table. So you do have it going on both feet. And there we go. Okay, we've got contact, so that's good. I'm just going fast because the plaster is getting hard. So then we take our indelible pencil. And we're going to make our lines that correspond with this paper. For our anterior platform, we go just proximal to the 5th med head. Just proximal to the 1st. We go all the way across. We bring that line there. You'll see why in a few minutes. Because you want the orthotic to end just proximal to your med heads. Now your medial expansion goes from your first inner space to the medial side of your heel, like this. Okay? First inner space, medial side of the heel, bingo, bango, bingo. And your lateral expansion is from a bisection of your 5th med head. And it goes around the lateral side on the heel. Allows for soft tissue expansion. Because your skin on your foot will do the same thing. And this little lip I got to get rid of. See the water here?
The
You
excess.
pour off the excess water till you get down to just plaster, and then run a little bit of water so you don't clog up your drain, because it'll cost you thousands of dollars to fix that. Thank God I've never clogged a drain. And we're ready to put on your anterior platform. Take your super feet out of the shoe. The only problem with this is there's a little bit too much gap. And it doesn't correct your forefoot varus. It should be, if you were on a desert island, I put a little bit of material here to make it higher, and I would take material and tilt the entire orthotic to compensate for your forefoot varus. That's on the right one. Not bad. Same thing on the right. You got to get it. See how it's pronating in? You got to get it up there, and it doesn't have enough contact for your CC joint or your medial arch. But I would tell my patient, if you were my patient, that this is definitely better than nothing. It's not, and it's not damaging. It's just inadequate, so it should be better than nothing. So what I'm doing here is I'm preparing to put on your anterior platform. You never heard my Dr. Jones story?
No, I didn't.
Tell you. Okay, this is nice and milky. You want this to be slightly wider.
Is that a specific type of
Oh my God.
plaster?
Yeah, it's called casting plaster.
Casting plaster. Okay.
I forgot to add a little tilt nails on there. It's about 10 degrees, and which one is 6? Do you remember?
4. Oh, the foot?
Yeah, which one is, what's on there? So your left is 10 degrees, so I'm going to have this sticking out around 10 millimeters. That will be, and then we push this in. Here's that mark, here's that mark. We want that to be on the...
And you said a millimeter per degree, correct?
Yeah, it's a good guesstimate. And this one was what, 6 on the right?
Yes.
So about 6 millimeters sticking out. And if this was serious lab business, you would measure that. And you can also do, you saw me heating up an orthotic earlier. You can also always fine tune it by tilting it with that heating mechanism. Bending, heating and bending. Take a look over here. I'm going to take this and make it perpendicular to the tabletop. This is your medial anterior expansion. And your lateral is same thing. Lateral and medial. Okay, and you have to have patience and let it set. Same thing over here. So many years ago, I was in my, and then I told you you're going to see the reason for that line, and that line there, and then we're going to cut across. So that's your anterior platform, and sometimes you can do this, sometimes you can get rid of the center between the first and fifth. We'll just leave yours like that right now. And the same thing on here. Peel it away. If you do too soon, it globs off and you gotta start over. You gotta wait till it gets semi-solid. You'll see your medial anterior platform is thicker than the lateral because it's correcting for your forefoot varus. And just for clean up, make it look good, or better. The orthotic's going to end just distal to this line. So everything forward of that is not necessary. So now we're going to take this plaster and do our medial expansion and lateral expansion. Tabletop clean. And for your medial expansion, and there's kind of just two angles that your blade should have. One is perpendicular to the tabletop, and the other one would be parallel. So you end up with a nice platform of added plaster just to make the medial side of the plate not dig into your flesh. That's basically it right there. That's your medial expansion on the right foot. Perpendicular. Okay. And then we'll do lateral expansion. Hey,
Same.
Melanie.
Same thing here, perpendicular and then
You got it.
parallel.
Good high pouring.
Good what?
Good high pouring.
Oh, thank you.
So your lateral and heel expansion is now good. Thanks for the warning. This is what took me 4 hours the first time I ever did it. What are you up to, about 10 minutes maybe?
The expansions?
Yeah. Maybe 10 minutes. And it's Dr. Jones. He made my career with that one little bit of teaching. Now, the lesson also is the plaster is very moist right now, so I'm going to leave it for a minute. I'm going to show you something when it comes. Sometimes you just got to leave it, because if you keep mushing it, it gets like a liquefaction. More moldable, getting like clay instead of like watery. Then I can really fine tune it. I can't imagine that seeing how a lab does their cultures and all the different tests they do, that we could probably have more insight in how those labs are done. Also see which labs are kind of questionable for their accuracy. You know, sometimes there's fudge room. You don't know. You don't know how they're doing it. If they tell you there's 10,800 WBCs, have you ever seen how they count those things? I haven't.
No, not at all.
Is it a really solid state number? I really don't know. Or is it a fudge factor?
How many different layers do we have to do for
What do you mean by layers? Layers of what?
the medial expansion, lateral expansion?
Layers?
As in, do we keep adding a little more plaster as
No,
it dries on?
I'm just cleaning it up.
Oh, okay.
Trying to make it look good. I actually do almost all of it for the students. I let the students get used to what it feels like. Because in the amount of time that we have, there's no way that you guys could get this done. So I kind of run around the lab and help you guys do it, and then we press them. But everyone in my class will have at least seen how it's done. So that's still not hard enough. And when we used to do it in school, we used to have to do about 3 or 4 bowls because they would harden, and then we ruin and have to start again.
When do you think the labs are going to open up again?
So while that's getting hardened, we're going to get your plastic ready. And this is the plastic we use at school, right here.
The orange.
Yeah, but we'll try the kind that I usually use for my patients. I really started because you can see through it. So by being able to see through it, it allows us to have be able to see the different lines. I can see through it, so I can see where to draw these lines. I know how to do it without that. So the more the student can see through from their eyes through the orthotic and onto the cast, they can see the different dimensions.
I guess it also builds muscle memory that way.
No. What does?
Oh, just being able to see it before, or see through, and then keep doing it until we're comfortable enough to not.
Think so?
Maybe.
So we're going to take this. Cutting the plastic so that it's distal to the anterior platform, but not too long. Just wanted a few millimeters distal to that line right there. And then, so it cups the heel. There we go. And then we're going to make this so it's narrower than the full anterior platform, or it hangs over and messes it up. Ready to press for your left foot. Get up there and let that start heating up. For your right foot, this one ready. Your heel hurting right now?
Not really, actually.
Ready for your right one. Take one. You're trying to break it?
It's already broken. How about that?
Want that, Brent? When it gets to the right hardness, this cuts like butter. It's great. If you try to do it too soon, it's like mush. And if you do it too late, it's like rock hard. So you want to get it to the right consistency. That's one of the beautiful qualities of plaster. It has all these different stages that it goes through. You don't even time it after you do for a while. You just know when it looks like it's ready. So the last thing to do, we're just going to file the medial expansion. So it comes to our line. See the line right there?
Mm-hmm.
And then file our lateral expansion all around. A nice even heel cut. You see your line for your heel cut?
Yep. It's like a little divot.
Nice even heel all the way around. And the medial arch, let me clean that all over. And then we're going to file this, and it's not always the case. Most of the time the left and right arches match up. Not always. I have a feeling yours will not.
Are you familiar with ASMR? It's like certain sounds calming, certain repetitive sounds. Kind of like what this is.
What does ASMR stand for?
That I don't know. All I know is it's associated with sounds that people really like.
I understand the concept. It probably smells like that, and
Maybe, yeah.
feeling the wind up against your face. Let's see our medial arch. And you're considerably lower on your left foot than your right. Which one had the higher forefoot here?
The left. 10 degrees.
The left arch of your orthotic is going to be higher than your right. You see the difference in the two arches?
Yep.
Now, if I was in the laboratory business, that's nice, I would get on the phone and call the doctor who orders these orthotics. I just want to let you know that there's asymmetry in the arch heights. Are you okay with that? And some would say no, make them even, which is foolish. And others say that's fine, because each foot is its own individual thing. But being in the lab business, I know your primary job is to take care of your customers, and it's not a great idea to do that. But the doctor's going to end up calling up, hey, the left arch is higher than the right. How come you did that? And if they trust me, which they usually did when I was in the lab business, I said, look, that's the height of the arch. I said, if you think you casted them improperly and they should be even, you probably got to recast them. It's on recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. You probably should record, but a lot of doctors, they don't want to do that. They'll say, well, make the arches even, which I think is a big compromise.
Okay.
Negative-wise, not good. When we go to press the cast, we use an interface to lead to cooling the material evenly and make a soft surface on the top of the plaster. Actually, I need to do a little adjustment to where it is adequately. And when these are not good, so then people like a nice smooth surface, so you take the special sandpaper and just smooth it off without changing the dynamics of the plaster addition, but ending with a smooth surface. There's some labs, they do all the work. There's a lab I used to get stuff from, and then you would take the sandpaper, and the guys in the sandpaper department would be looking off into the sunset and thinking about other stuff, and sit there just sanding away, and they'd ruin all that work that was done to this point. Well, I saw it a lot. I actually used to tell the laboratory, don't even sand my casts. I'd rather have a little irregular from an aesthetic standpoint than lose out on correction or accuracy. See this one here, see how it's good here and there's a divot here, not there?
Mm-hmm.
So the way you fix that, you don't have to fix it, but you'll have a funny little divot in your heel, just like that. Oh, you stay there. Okay, so we're gonna put this in.
And how hot do we have to get the oven?
325 or so.
Okay. And how long we keep for 4 minutes,
4
correct?
minutes. On that, every lab's different. They just gotta learn how their ovens work. That's different from place to place. Take this synthetic suede material and lay it. I don't do this at school because I want them to see everything. It'll take impression of those little lines. But we have the lateral aspect right up against the orange, and this slightly further down and centered. So we're going to center that plastic over the wet material. Sometimes the slowest way is the fastest way. What I mean, I was being lazy, not cleaning off this spatula before. Every time I was adding plaster, it was chipping away what I was trying to fix. At least a minimal lab to do grinding if an orthotic is too long or too wide or anything like that. This is ready also. Then once we have this done, you're going to take it home and wear it for a week and then come back for stabilizing and fine tuning.
Sounds good.
A week, 2 weeks, whatever. So what's your rotation? It's just you push your finger against the lateral, you center around the heel, and then we close the vacuum. And go into the refrigerator on the top deck. There's ice pack. You put ice on it because if it doesn't cool properly, again, property of the material, it will buckle. The material that we use in school does not buckle. We have blue, black, brown, sometimes we have white. But they tell us it's the exact same material, but it actually behaves a little differently. There is a little different, the dye does seem to impart some effect on the plastic. Just to the side. Take this here. Take this out of here. Start this. Oh, it's got a minute to go. And now the other sheet of paper I told you will come into play is now. So bring that over here. This is the dimensions of the orthotic. Yeah. So your orthotic plate dimensions. Proximal lateral, distal, medial. I'm sorry, proximal medial, proximal lateral, in an arc like. That's your anterior edge. Your lateral edge is simply the farthest lateral edge of your lateral expansion. The medial edge is the bisection of the first med head.
To the medial calcaneus.
Yeah. So that's our dimensions. We'll come to that in a minute. And you can take that paper away. This is ready to press. We're going to press. Not like the newspaper. So you push your finger laterally, circle the heel. Gets to about 2 minutes. That'll be cooled adequately. Now we're gonna cut your orthotic. I'm gonna go right to those marks. Right? Right to the line?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna get it to the edge. See that?
The line.
Sharp edge? Yeah. We've got the lateral edge, the anterior edge, now the medial edge. Now, it's fully to the dimensions that we needed. Now, one little problem left over, see how thick that is?
Mm-hmm.
The way we get rid of that, grind it away, but leave about 1 millimeter at the top. That's ready after I clean it up for you to try. After I grind the other box. Get a box. It's all the way back. Very good. Same thing here.
Can I try and feel how that feels like
Where?
against the grinder?
Yeah.
Cool.
This was on your left shoe or the...
I think it's on the ground. I can get it.
Okay. Which leg did I say was short? Millimeters on here.
Awesome.
Take this. Take a video. We're looking for the low point. right there. And then to help correct for part of your limb length, we're going to file away directly under where the heel meets the ground. Now your right orthotic is 3 millimeters thicker than your left.
Awesome.
Take your orthotic, put your foot in a casting position. Matches really nice, except that it's gapping right here, because that's your forefoot correction. Because we made the medial platform thicker,
Mm-hmm.
it's taken the entire plate, tilted it up. Relax your foot. Looks really good. Okay, let's go on your knees over here. Plaster to it like we did with yours. Or there's something I came up with 20 years ago. Is before we actually pour the plaster, these lines are going to look familiar to this. We have your anterior platform, medial expansion, lateral expansion. It looks just like this. Anterior platform, lateral expansion, medial expansion. And then what we're going to do, I was actually, when I came over this, I was actually in a class when I was learning about positive space and negative space. So when you file away from this, that's negative space. But by taking away, and then when we pour the plaster into it,
That causes
it will
a
be
positive space.
pre-expanded.
Okay.
These will already be in the cast, which is grossly more efficient than mixing a bowl of plaster and setting it down and tilting and all that stuff. I was actually on a beach in Hawaii thinking about it. And I came up with it on a beach in Hawaii 20 years ago at least.
Which island?
Maui.
Maui. That's a beautiful island.
So here's your anterior platform, lateral expansion, medial expansion. Anterior, lateral, medial anterior platform, medial expansion. And when they get done in that room over there, I'm going to blow this powder out of here. And my nurse will pour plaster into it. And that 4-hour process is cut down to 5 minutes.
Wow.